Hi everyone, I'm back talking about World of Tanks. We discussed light and medium tanks so far. Now it's time to discuss heavy tanks. To start with, again, I'm going to discuss it on a little bit lower tier. Again, the crew members, as you can imagine, like I always say, I always have 6 cents on the crew members, so you can see my skills, and then I just continue with the standard for the commander: situation awareness. I always do brother in arms at some point. The driver, I have a dead eye to damage crew members, to injure crew members and damage the modules. Snapshot, so I can aim more accurately during movement. And brother in arms again, because every member has to have it in order to work. Now off-road driving, preventive maintenance, and that's because this tank can easily catch fire. Again, brother in arms, and at the end, smooth ride. I'm doing on the 4th one, and on the loader, brother in arms, of course. Adrenaline rush. So when you're low on HP, you reload faster. And safe storage, like I said, this tank is quite easily lit up or blown up, so it's best to secure it. Not every heavy tank is like that. That's just because this is one of the tanks that burns easily. KV series. At the same time, usually on the heavy tanks, if you have a driver, I would also suggest, especially if it's heavier and if it doesn't move and turn easily, I would suggest to give it to clutch braking. Clutch braking will allow you to turn easier, especially when it's really heavy tank and slow tank. Advise it. Now, the heavy tanks are a little bit different. Their task is to be on the front, fighting against other heavy tanks, and obviously taking more damage, trying to push the attack. Of course, they also need support, like from tank destroyers or medium tanks. Most effective in town maps, not so much always on the open space, especially if there is artillery, because obviously there's obvious reasons. They're slower than mediums or light. It's harder for them to escape it, so you want to make sure that you usually, there is lots of artillery, you want to have some sort of cover. Now, once we have the basics discussed with the crew, the equipment, again, I usually suggest to have ventilation. Ventilation, especially for heavy tanks, helps a lot because they have slower reload, slower aiming sometimes, and at the same time it will allow them to maybe travel a little bit faster. Obviously, I also have gun rammer, which allows me to reload faster. Again, heavy tanks usually have a bit of a slower reload than lights or meds. And at the end, I also have aiming speed. There are other options depending on the tank. Again, like this tank, for example, you could put modified configuration because it will allow you to have a safer ammo rack, fuel tank, and engine durability. And like I said before, for example, this tank likes to burn, so that would be handy. You could maybe change that instead of ventilation system. But other than that, unless it's improved or special equipment, I don't think there is anything else I would suggest for heavy tank. So let's go back to main menu. Ammunition, it's down to you if you want to use more expensive one or less. Now in heavy tanks, heat ammunition, it's a little bit more effective than some of the lights or mediums. Again, I usually carry few just to do decap on the base. Sometimes you cannot penetrate, you might be playing against higher tier, so it's not as easy, but heat ammunition usually allow you to do some sort of damage or critical hit that it will reset points on the base. Like I said before, some of the tanks I don't have, for example on this one, stabilizer, but some of the tanks, heavy tanks like for example East 3, I do have one, because they do they're not very good at shooting during movement or turret movement, so this is improving that a little bit. And the same goes for 10 tier, but again I've got ventilation system and reload. Well, reload is very handy to have always, because you might be in a situation, you might be one-on-one, and this might save you in the game, in the battle. Again, consumables is down to you if you want to use small or large, or it's up to you. Directives, like I said before in my other videos, I don't really use it unless I play some sort of tournaments. Now as you can see on the side here, usually like lights and medium tanks have very small survivability rate. In this case, as you can see, it's almost at maximum, and the same goes for firepower, like it should be on a heavy tank. But again, you don't have really any concealment, so you don't really want to be sitting in the bush or hiding, because you will get spotted, you will get and then you will get killed. Obviously this is 6 tier, and then as you can see, survivability is much lower. Concealment is a little bit better, that's because it's a smaller tank, it's easier hide, but still I wouldn't advise to just sit in a corner and or in the bush, because you won't survive for long. Everybody who wants to play heavy tank, like I said, you don't want to be camping, you want to be a bit more on the front, you want to be aiming for the targets that lights and medium spot. Make sure you have a bit of cover if you know there is artillery in a battle, and everything should be fine. And on my next video I will put this into action. I'm going to show you on my next video how the gameplay works for the heavy tanks, what you should do and maybe what you shouldn't do. So be with me on my next video. You can see those next videos at the end of these, always at the end of the film. At the same time, in the right hand corner, top corner, you can subscribe. If you like what you're seeing, you want to see more content, then you're most welcome, or you can do the same thing in the right bottom corner throughout this video. So thank you very much, and join me on the next one.